You're not gonna take a poop on my desk, are you?
Hello, gorgeous.
How's it going, everyone? These are my rabbits. There's no reason for any of this. I just wanted you to see my rabbits before we started the video. I got pens, they're multiplying. Okay. Why am I wearing a coat? Today, I'm gonna compare two sets of alcohol markers, with one being one of the best alcohol markers of all time, and the other, I'm fairly certain, is an imposter. What's going on YouTube? My name is ADCArtAttack. Did it again. Stop running off. His name is Bob, and welcome, that was so aggressive. And welcome back to a brand new episode of Cheap versus Expensive. This is the series where I take two art supplies in the same category, put them up against each other to find out which one of them is worth it at the respective price points. And I think today is going to be the most difficult episode. Right, you gotta move, man. In my previous video, I unboxed a set of markers for the first time that I have never heard of, yet they cost more than any other markers I have ever seen. And I had my suspicions. So today, I want to find out the truth. I'm going to put the touch markers against the Winsor & Newton and see if they truly are the same, or if I made a mistake. Now, before we get too deep into the video, I do want to say a quick thank you to those who purchased these markers for me. Yes, these were a gift. Some members of my community came together and got me these from my wish list during my live streams. Without them, I wouldn't have these markers and this video wouldn't be possible, so thank you so much. And on that note, at the end of this video, there is going to be a segment explaining a few things that are going on in my life and some stuff that has happened which has caused me to fall into a bit of a spiral. Excuse me. So if you would like to maintain the image of ADCArtAttacks, always smiling, always happy, always positive, then please skip the end of this video. But if you would like to know what's been going on and if you'd like to help me out a little bit, end of this video, there is a little segment. All right, so back to it. So before we go into a direct comparison between these two markers, let's take a look at some of those boring figures that, to be honest, I never find this bit interesting. Starting with the Pro Marker brush, these markers come in with a color range of 72 different colors. These markers have a variety of collections from 6, 12, 24, with the highest set of 48. The total collection of 48 markers will cost you $180, with the individual price of each marker around $4. That seems more expensive than it used to be. Now, unfortunately, these markers are single use. That means there are no replacements. You have no ink refills and there are no replaceable nibs. In 2024, that doesn't seem acceptable anymore. Moving over to the touch markers, these have a total range of 204 colors. What? That is 3 times the Winsor & Newton brush markers. These markers are available in an absurd variety of collections, with the maximum being 60 markers, which comes in at a price tag of $300. This is $315. Who said that was okay? For just one of these pens, it is $5.60. That is 50% more than the Winsor & Newton. Why? I'll tell you why. Unlike the Winsor & Newton, these pens are not single use. You can purchase 20 milliliter refills, providing you with 7 to 8 refills of your markers. You can also find replacement nibs in a variety of nibs, but in my opinion, the standout feature, you can buy this entire case separately. This is one of the greatest cases, I forgot how to unlock it. This is one of the greatest cases to ever exist. Right, so with the boring stuff out the way, stop, I've got to stop slamming this. I'm gonna damage it. But then I can replace it. So with all the boring stuff out the way, it is time for the comparison. Cheap versus expensive. I never thought I'd be saying Winsor & Newton are the cheap marker. How did we get here in life? I have no idea what to expect. Oh! That was dramatic. In my previous video, many people were commenting on the touch markers being way more expensive than they've ever seen. Fun fact, these are the originals. The ones that you have probably been seeing on the market are the knockoff brands, and I have a video coming out real soon with the touch markers versus the knockoff touch everything. Don't touch everything, there is touch. There is a lot of touch markers out there. But just know these are the real ones. So it is the moment you've been waiting for. It is the cheap versus expensive. We're finally here after that very long intro. Still going, aren't I? But for today's drawing, I have prepared something very special. Early on in this month, it was announced that Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball and the inspiration behind much of my artwork and in fact my entire art career, had sadly passed away. Now, I was silent on this at the time that it happened on my YouTube, as I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to start making videos on this topic, as I was also grieving the loss. Early on in my art career, I focused heavily on just drawing the simplistic things, Sonic the Hedgehog, The Simpsons, some sort of animals. But it wasn't until I discovered Dragon Ball in the mid-90s that I began to take art more seriously. Thanks to Dragon Ball, I was able to come out of my comfort zone, and while it was certainly my Everest and I was unable to achieve perfect looking results, through years and years and years of training and trying, I was able to get the Dragon Ball style down to a T, and from that, I was able to spark an amazing career on platforms like YouTube. In many ways, I owe much to who I am as a person, as well as my art style, to Akira Toriyama. Without his works of art and his creations, I don't know what kind of artist I would be today. So this piece of artwork, for the most part, is freestyled with some referencing here and there, and is going to serve a great basis for today's battle. Before I get started, I just want to say rest in peace to Akira Toriyama, and thank you so much for your creations and what you brought to this world. So I'm going to start with the cheap side. In what world are the Pro markers cheap? What economy did we come into here? Yes, we're going to be starting with the Winsor & Newton Pro and brush markers. Now, to make things clear, these are Pro markers. Pro markers are different to the brush markers. One of them has a brush nib and one of them has a bullet nib. Now, for the sakes of today's video, and because I do not own the entire range of each of these markers, I will be using both the bullet nibs and the brush nibs, but predominantly the brush nibs when I'm talking about the markers by comparison. So basically, what I'm saying is, I don't actually know what I'm saying. Don't judge the comparison based on the final results. Base it on the talking points throughout this video, because they're what's important. I don't really know what else to say about it. You know, if I had more brush markers, Winsor & Newton, send me some brush markers. I need more. I don't have any. Now then, although I said I will be using the Pro markers here, I will do my best to avoid them, even at the risk of color inaccuracies. Though I'm not gonna purposely sabotage the final results, it's still very likely the final results are gonna suffer because of this. It should also be noted, whether you go for a brush marker, a Pro marker, a fine nib, a thingy nib, broad nib, it doesn't matter. Each collection has a variant at the same cost as whichever one you want to choose. So whether I use the bullet or brush, to be honest, it's irrelevant. That said, the brush of the Winsor & Newton is unbelievable. Now, I know many have opinions, but objectively, as a brush, this is the best. No questions. Although, no, this is the best. Just a little bit. Well, it's good. It's good. Some people may find it too soft, perhaps the ink flow doesn't suit their speeds. This is valid. But as you can see, my natural speed is perfectly suited for these markers. Now we're gonna move on to some of those flesh tones, and this is where a lot of markers fall short, especially if you don't have the colors you need. But this isn't a problem for Winsor & Newton. As we have such an extensive range of colors, granted I don't have them all, we have access to any color we might require, and if we don't have that color, Winsor & Newton are fully capable of blending and changing the colors on the paper itself. That's probably the reason why so many of the high quality markers are translucent. Translucent allows for Translucent allows you to blend with your markers on the paper. As you can already see, the strength of these pens is their ability to blend seamlessly. I have a tendency to get bored when I create art, which leads me to speed running the coloring, which is perfect with these. They require almost zero effort on my part to achieve those smooth blends. Now here's a really unusual point to mention. Something I've never loved about the brush markers is how cheap they feel. It's really a non-issue, but they don't feel good in your hands. They're extremely light, in fact the lightest markers I've ever held, which isn't comfortable to those like myself who prefer their tools to have a little extra weight. I don't know, I just feel this is a point worth mentioning, as sometimes having that weight does lend itself well to the pressures applied on the paper. It's always been something I just feel really weird about. The precision of this brush is unreal as well. The point of the brush is the point of contact. Who knew? And given its even and perfect distribution of ink throughout that nib, no matter the level of contact with the paper, the ink is consistent. There we go, the Winsor & Newton side is done looking very tasty. I think it looks good. It's certainly not the best artwork I've ever done, for obvious reasons. I had to take a break because I wasn't feeling good. But I still think it's fine, and the talking points so far do cover these markers pretty well. They're fantastic, and for obvious reasons, they're one of my favorite markers of all time. Moving on. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I took a break, went shops, came back. There's a fly in this room. Summertime. Whoosh. This is atrocious. Every time I bring this to my desk, I feel like I've got to dress apart. This is ridiculous. You know how much these things cost? Well, you do, because I told you in the intro. Were you paying attention? You didn't just skip to the drawer. No, you wouldn't do that. I'm still wearing my... I'll start cleaning my ears a bit more. PSA, clean your ears. I'm excited to use these. The last time I used them, I did say that they were basically Winsor & Newton markers in a different body, and I still stand by that, but we're gonna find out now if that's the case. See, I was only talking from memory in the last video. I thought that these were just basically Winsor & Newtons, but I weren't actually using Winsor & Newtons. So, this is why we're here. Are you criminal offensives? Let's find out. Now, as mentioned in a previous video, we have some nib issues here. The nib does... Hang on. This nib is working... How? Whoa, this nib is really working well. Hold up. Okay, I'm almost certain these are the same nibs. It does seem to be a tiny little point to these brushes. So I'm not sure how easy it is to see from here, but each of these nibs seems to be slightly different. We have this slight issue with a hair hanging off the end of the nib. Is it possible that this is just a design error? Absolutely. There are mistakes in manufacturing. This could just be a bad batch. Okay then. So we have a major situation here, and it's good. These markers are blending incredibly well. Like, really well. Probably the best blending I have ever experienced. I'm shocked. I don't know how I'm gonna do this voiceover. And another thing, I don't know why I'm still dressed up. These things actually feel pretty good in your hands. The square design is very, very comfortable to hold and arguably better than the round case, pen. Don't sniff marker, I'm doing a test. I don't know what that smells like. Now, if I know alcohol, and I know alcohol, and this is empty because I drank it, but you get, ooh, nice. It doesn't smell like an alcohol marker. It doesn't smell nice, it's just, you know, just a point I felt like bringing up to, I have to explain myself. Aha, there is a problem for me. These nibs are so bendy. I have never used a brush marker this flexible. It's not a bad thing, it's just, gotta find something to complain about. That's like top 5 most expensive thing I ever put in my mouth. It's like eating a steak, only this is dangerous, don't eat this. Bad for you. I'm a professional, so I can do it. The broad nib? We don't talk about that. The black is nice though. Love it. I hate this broad nib. Did I mention that? Why is this still on markers? Ooh, do you use it? Are you the person that keeps these in business? Stop it. We don't need that. Yeah, so if you didn't know, I have a personal vendetta against chisel nibs. I do not like the chisel nib. I think it's a waste of a nib. I would much rather have a fine nib, a brush nib, a fine point, anything but the chisel. I mean, I do use it, but you shouldn't, because like, it's a lot of ink. And I know what you're thinking, oh, but ADC, we need that nib for the large areas. No, you don't. If you find yourself in a position where you need to use an alcohol marker on a large area, you are using the wrong medium. Alcohol markers are for tiny pieces of artwork, really small artworks, not for big, not big. I'm just trying to save people money. It costs a lot of money for this. Especially this. You know what? Using these is fun. They do a fantastic job and work beautifully. Though I will say, due to the brush itself, they're certainly a little bit more of an advanced marker to use versus the Pro and Brush markers. I also think, based on this, they probably have a higher skill ceiling if you can master them. Although that bleeding is annoying, I wish it stopped that. Also, what's with this? The grays are doing things to the base colors. Are you eating them? Stop it. All in all, both of these markers work fantastically. Please don't judge the results of the markers based on the results of this artwork. I'm just not a very good artist. But in terms of functionality, in terms of the using of these markers and how well they perform, one of them really surprised me here today. So what do you think? Which of these markers is worth it? The cheap side, Winsor & Newton Pro and Brush markers, coming in at a price tag of still way too much. Or the touch markers, coming in at a... Why are these markers so expensive? Let me know in a comment down below. Heaven knows. You were once my love, but there is another. What am I doing? Why are you so dusty? Who made you dirty? Let me give you a wash. Boom! Wouldn't it be funny if that had happened? Doom, 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 doom. So, thank you all so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. And this little segment here is not really a part of the video, but I did mention it in the intro. And for those who want to sort of know what's going on, I made a video last week talking about the things that I'm going through, the problems I'm having, and my mental struggles. And since that week, I've actually updated. I did record something for this, but I'm re-recording today because since that video, a lot of things have happened. A lot of good, and at the same time I have slipped a little bit, and there's been some, you know, personal problems for me in terms of my head and my feelings and, you know, how I feel in the day and in the evenings especially. But yeah, so if you're wondering what's going on, I will link that video down below in the description, as well as a pinned comment of this video. It's kind of important, as well as a GoFundMe, which is the kind of point of all of this. And I'm not going to touch on it too much because if you did watch the last video, you already know what happened. But there was a situation that happened in my life that has caused me a lot of mental anguish, a lot of problems, and it's been a struggle. The last 2 years has been probably the hardest time of my life. I've lost so much than I can possibly begin to explain, and I've kept all of that private. And I still continue to keep some of that private because I don't think it's something that I'm not strong enough to discuss, and also I would rather not on the public platform really mention some things. But I have mentioned what I can mention, and I'm getting nervous again. And yeah, if you guys would like to know more about what's happened, I was planning on saying more here today, but I didn't plan on making that video. So I'm gonna link that video here. And yeah, I thank you all so much for the support so far. It has been incredible. I've felt better than I have in the longest time, but I'm still struggling, and it's still, yeah, I still feel a lot of pressure, and I'm worried about each month. You know, well, not each month at the moment, but I am worried about what's going to happen next month. I'm worried each day at the moment, and yeah. All right, well, I don't want to end this on a bad note. I apologize for that, and I apologize for not saying more, but as I say, I did record something prior to actually publishing this video, and obviously last week's video wasn't planned and was done in the middle of making this video. So yeah, I had to change some stuff, and I just didn't want to bore you guys. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take it easy, and if there's anything you'd like to see me do in the future, please do let me know down below in the comment section. And yeah, hopefully you had a good time and like the new hat. Somebody who watches the streams got me a hat, and I love it, and it's awesome. And yeah, all right, bye.